So my calculations are that without using any gas or oil or fuel ever again from this day forward, that we would still exceed our maximum carbon equivalent greenhouse gas emissions, the 565 gigatons, by the year 2030, without the electricity sector even, or energy sector even factoring in the equation, all simply by eating lazy animal livestock.
The problem, however, is that the cattle industry is cutting into the Amazon. The problem, however, is that the cattle industry is cutting into the Amazon to create new pasture to fulfill the world demand. 30 years ago, the town of Alta Floresta was nothing but dense Amazon forest, but the town has gone through an agricultural revolution common in this region.
Alta Floresta started with mining gold. Then the loggers came. Now, with no trees, we need the cattle to survive.
Slaughterhouses like this one kill over 4,000 cattle a week. The meat is to be shipped to places like China, Europe, and the Middle East. And now in Brazil, there is huge demand for more open land to feed the cattle industry. The dense vegetation of the Amazon might seem like a natural barrier to the expansion of cattle ranches. But when it comes to a multi-billion-dollar industry, nothing becomes a barrier. But when it comes to a multi-billion-dollar industry, nothing becomes a barrier. Loggers cut down the most valuable trees for profit. Then they light the area on fire, clearing the land further, making way for the grasslands that the cattle need. The cattle industry likes to refer to the process of deforestation simply as opening the forest.
Our global rainforests are essentially the planet's lungs. They breathe in CO2 and exhale oxygen. An acre of rainforest is cleared every second, and the leading cause is to graze animals and grow their feed crops. That is essentially an entire football field cleared every single second. And it is estimated that every day, close to 100 plant, animal, and insect species are lost due to rainforest destruction.
Our economy is based on cattle ranching. With the opening of the forests, the planting of grasslands, and the creation of cattle farms, we have all the factors in our favor.
The cattle industry wants to make as much profit as possible, which here stands in stark contrast to environmental interests.
It's cheaper for the cattle ranchers to cut new forests and invest in grassland areas for their cattle, and I don't see that changing. So it's going to be a big challenge to change the pattern of deforestation in the Amazon.
Brazil's agricultural industry sees no sign of slowing, just the opposite.
Brazil is the world's largest exporter of meat, chicken, sugar, ethanol, soya, coffee, oranges, and tobacco. But we have the potential to double the area of land we're cultivating oranges and tobacco. But we have the potential to double the area of land we're cultivating oranges and tobacco. But we have the potential to double the area of land we're cultivating.
Reduce the amount of methane emissions, the level in the atmosphere goes down fairly quickly, and within decades, as opposed to CO2. If you reduce the emissions to the atmosphere, you don't really see a signal in the atmosphere for 100 years or so.
Single largest contributor to every known environmental ill known to humankind. Deforestation, land use, water scarcity, the destabilization of communities, world hunger. The list doesn't stop. It's an environmental disaster that's being ignored by the very people who should be championing.
Free living animals made up 10,000 years ago made up 99% of the biomass. And human beings, we only made up 1% of the biomass. Today, only 10,000 years later, which is really just a fraction of time, we human beings and the animals that we own as property make up 98% of the biomass, and wild, free-living animals make up only 2%. We've basically completely stolen the world, the earth, from free-living animals to use for ourselves and our cows and pigs and chickens and factory farmed fish. More devastated.
Concerned researchers of the loss of species agree that the primary cause of loss of species on our Earth that we're witnessing is due to overgrazing and habitat loss from livestock production on land and by overfishing, which I call fishing, in our oceans.
We're in the middle of the largest mass extinction of species in 65 million years. The rainforest is being cut down at the rate of an acre per second. And the driving force behind all of this is animal agriculture, cutting down the forest to graze animals and to grow soybeans, genetically engineered soybeans to feed to the cows and pigs and chickens and factory farmed fish.
91% of the loss of rainforest in the Amazon area thus far to date, 91% that's been destroyed is due to raising livestock.